Hi, my name is Lisa Fertig, and welcome to Beginning Watercolor. I just wanted to start by going over my watercolor supply list. If you don't have a copy of that, you can download it from the White Bear Center for the Arts website. And we'll start out with paint. There's two different types of paint. There is a professional or artist grade and a student grade. I always encourage students to buy what they can afford, but the student grade has a little bit more filler in it, and the artist grade has a little bit more pigment in it. So the pigment artist quality will go a little bit further than the student grade. I also like to buy the American Journey brand on my supply list, just because it comes in this nice 37 millimeter tube and they last a long time. So American Journey is cheapjoes.com brand of pigment. If you have pigments of your own already, Winsor Newton, M. Graham, whatever brand, I encourage you to use those until you feel comfortable in changing. But always try to use up what you have. And the list of colors is on my supply list. I'm not going to go through that. You can check that out. Brushes, I recommend a 1.5 inch flat and a number round 7. I also have a 12 or 10 are both pretty comparable. And then a round about the size of your index finger. The thing with brushes is each manufacturer has a different numbering system. So if I would say to you that this is a Lowell Cornell number 26 in a different brand brush, it would be a different number. So I try not to, like here's a Legend Kowalski. They look very similar. This is a 16. So even though they look similar, different companies have different numbering systems. So keep that in mind as you're buying brushes. A stencil brush is also very helpful. This is called a Joe's Scrubber brush. This is called a stencil brush. All it is they're just goat hair. Goat hair is a little stiffer than our synthetic or sable brushes. And they're great for erasing. We use these for erasing. These come in varying sizes, the stencil brushes. I think I get these at Michael's or Joann's in the stencil area. This is through cheapjoes.com, and it's called a Joe's or a Fritsch scrubber. The other thing with brushes just to be aware about are there are two different types of brushes. There's synthetic, and which is a man-made fiber, and then sable, which is a true fiber. So when you're starting out, I would recommend a synthetic brush. It holds less water and it's a little easier to handle. Okay. Let's see. Next on the supply list, a palette. I like the Quiller palette here. Stephen Quiller is the artist's name, and the reason I like that is because it's a great, it's a color palette that you can see. Mine's a little dirty at the moment, but it's a circle, and it reinforces the color wheel with our 3 primaries here, and then our secondaries, and it helps just reinforce a little of that color theory. So whatever color palette you choose upon, try to have a large area to mix your pigments. That's the main thing that you're looking for. A spray bottle is also recommended. Try to get one that has varying amounts of spray, from fine to a little bit heavier spray. Water container. And then I use a sponge, just a kitchen sponge here, and I wrap the diaper around it. And this is very important because this is sort of used as a blotter during our paint process to control the amount of water on our brush. So I always recommend this quite a bit. Paper. There's a couple of different paper options. I usually use Arches 140-pound cold press. A full sheet comes in a 22 by 30 size. And I use usually a half sheet of that, 15 by 22, or you can also use a quarter sheet, 11 by 15, so whatever you're comfortable. Another option for watercolor is called a watercolor block. This is a Arches watercolor block, cold press, once again 140 pound. You can tell Arches has 3 different types of watercolor paper. This is cold press, 140 pound. It also comes in a hot press or a rough, and the color of the paper will be different. Nice thing about a watercolor block is that it's a sheet of 20 pieces of paper that's just glued onto a board, and at the top of the paper there's a little opening that once your paper painting has dried, you can just stick either a little piece of a credit card in here or a palette knife and go around the whole outer edge, and then it just comes right off that board. It helps keep the painting flat during the painting process. If you're not going to be using a block, if you're going to be using an individual piece of paper, I recommend getting a board. This is called a gator board. It's a board with, I think, like a foam core in between, sandwiched by 2 plastic pieces. And then you just need a piece of a bulldog clip to anchor that paper on each corner of that board. So a couple of different options there for paper. The blocks are a little bit more expensive than the individual pieces of paper, but they both do the same thing. So let's see, salt. We use that for texture. Table salt is good. That granule's a little smaller. You can also buy kosher salt or sea salt. The bigger the granule, the larger the area that paint will soak up that salt and leave a little texture on the paper. A kneaded eraser, a pencil, gouache, and liquid masking fluid I'll talk about in class before I use them, but we will be using those. So hopefully it looks like I've covered everything on the supply list. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to email me with those questions. But I think that covers everything for now. Okay?